Okay, friends, today's video is like a modified version of that popular hyped fragrances, what I purchased or passed them, except I wanted to focus on just a couple of houses to give you an idea of the range of smells. So I'm going to focus today on boy smells, which I first learned about on Sephora. There's a range of candles too, but I got a sample set or discovery set rather from them. I also got a discovery set from a new house that showed up on Sephora recently that I had never seen before. I have to admit, I don't really know how to pronounce the name, Nette, Nette. I got a discovery set from them as well. And because the Sephora sale is coming up, I thought maybe some folks would be interested in hearing about at least those two brands because they're sort of newer on the fragrance scene, if you will, and not a lot of people have talked about them. And then I also wanted to give some impressions while I'm here doing this of 5 zoologist fragrances that I've recently sampled. So I'll actually start with the 5 zoologist fragrances first. No, they're not sold on Sephora, even though the other 2 are, and I'm doing those for the purposes of the sale, which I'm posting this either before the sale or as the sale is going on. Zoologist is a brand that I've been particularly interested in, but scared away from. Some of the smells, the scents can be a little bit just, let's say, out there, out in left field, different. So when we talk about niche houses smelling different and unique, zoologist is probably one that actually comes to mind. So we're going to talk about bee, cow, camel, snowy owl, and seahorse. And I have some notes in front of me from when I sampled these, so I will be looking down. Pardon me. I'm trying to be rude. Let's start off with maybe the biggest surprise of the bunch, and that's zoologist bee. So let me pause and say one of the things I really like about the brand is the artwork. The cover, the little label that you see on the bottle, they're so cute in lots of different ways. Like whoever did this artwork is just genius. So bee. I was scared of bee because it's a heavy honey flavor, and honey is one of those notes that can sometimes just be overwhelming in fragrances and ruin them, like make them a little bit too just pungent and animalic for me. So the way that I do these videos is I tell you whether I think it's a mass appealing fragrance, that's category 1. Category 2 is what do I smell in the fragrance? So this is without looking at notes. I don't know what the notes or chords are, like what am I picking up just on pure sniff? What is the performance of the fragrance like? And then is it full bottle worthy? And just a quick disclaimer, all of these are done based on samples. So as I always say, you don't know what a fragrance really smells like until you get a full bottle and have an opportunity to sort of douse yourself in it. And so just keep that in mind that, you may want to take some of these thoughts with either a grain of salt or just as a quick initial impression to share with you. So it's limited in that way. B, mass appealing, I would say maybe. And here's what I got out of this fragrance. I was surprised. I was really expecting this to be overwhelming, but it actually came across from me like pure honey that's straight out of a honey bottle. And I'm talking more about your commercially produced honey that's been really refined, not the raw honey, although maybe it smells like that too. And I would say it smells almost like a warmed up honey. It was sweet and I found it really comforting. In terms of the overall longevity, this was long lasting all around, in my opinion. I could smell it well into the day, and it projected decently, again, from a sample. And so I enjoyed this fragrance. I was surprised that I liked it. You definitely have to be in the mood for that honey smell if you're going to enjoy this. Is it full bottle worthy? I'm going to say yes. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to run out and buy the fragrances. I'm just saying if you're looking at this fragrance or any of these fragrances, if I say yes, in my opinion, maybe it's one that somebody should buy a full bottle of. Maybe not me, maybe you. Cow is the next one. Zoologist cow. Yes, this is a mass appealing fragrance. This was also a surprise. I found this to be very, very pleasant is the word that I would use. It was sweet. It was lactonic or milky. It definitely had like a milkiness to it. I got sweet flowers, like drenched in milk out of this fragrance, really soft, subtle white florals. And it was almost like powdered candy. There was some sort of sweet aspect that reminded me of candies that have powdery films on them. So this was nice. I was really expecting more of like the bakery gourmand end, like something milky and then sweet, like in the caramel direction, or I don't know why I thought that, but it really was floral and sweet in the powdered candy, sweet, fruity candy direction, but just a hint of that candy piece to it. And I found this to be rather soft on the skin. So this wasn't one that projected far. You definitely have to come in for a hug to be able to smell this on someone, but it did last pretty decently. It had moderate lasting power. I could smell it up to 6 hours later. Is it full bottle worthy? it was surprisingly pleasant. So I'm going to say maybe. Then we go on to Camel. Is this mass appealing? In my opinion, I would say an absolute no, capital letters. What did this remind me of? So if you like Camel, don't be offended. Just an initial impression, like I said, from a sample. This one gave me New York City subway stankness. If you have gone into the subterranean, below street level train stations in New York, you know what I'm talking about. They have this, the funk of 40,000 years sitting down there. People have urinated in those train stations. There's been metal moving through those stations. Lots of bodies are moving through those stations. It just has that distinct New York City subway smell. So Camel reminded me of that, I have to say, with pine salt to cover up the New York City subway smell. Like those two things together are what immediately hit me. And it didn't get much more pleasant in the dry down for me. I realized this is supposed to be like an exotic smelling, smoky, spicy, something or other, night in the desert kind of a fragrance. Not for me. This was a big no for me. It was moderate all around. I don't think, at least for me on the sample, didn't, do like super projection, super long lasting. It was moderate. I don't want a bottle of this. If you love it, let us know in the comments. Say, hey, I really liked Camel, and here are the things that I liked about it, so that folks can get different impressions. The next one is maybe my favorite from the bunch, mostly because of the artwork on the bottle. It's called Snowy Owl. Oh my God, this owl is adorable. We have owls in our neighborhood. Sometimes they show up in the little woody area behind my house. And I just love a good owl hoot, y'all. I love to hear a little whoo. It makes my entire night when I hear that. So I was rooting for this fragrance to smell great. Mass appealing, maybe. I'm not sure if a lot of people will be into this kind of smell. It was, for me, a comforting, metallic kind of smell. I found it to be very gentle. I found the smell overall to feel soft in terms of the texture of the smell. It was snowy. It did evoke snowiness for me. Maybe the title is suggestive, but in the same way that like Soleil Neige from Tom Ford, it has that same aspect of like Mont Blanc signature. It has a subtle muskiness to it that has just enough substance to carry the fragrance but not overpower it. This was a really pleasant fragrance overall, very sort of clean, light, and ethereal. This had moderate longevity overall, but it was close to the skin. It's not one that's super projecting, but it did have some long life to it, in my opinion. Full bottle worthy? Maybe. This is so super cute. I'd love to see a bottle of this in my collection. We move on then to Seahorse, which I have to say is one of the most unique smells I've ever laid my nose on. It is not mass appealing because of that, because it's such a different kind of a smell. I found this to be musky. I found it to be very light and happy, at least in the opening. There are some sweet aspects to this fragrance, but it's also very highly vegetal. Like it smells like a chopped salad. There's something in this fragrance that reminds me of freshly chopped vegetables. And it has a balancing aspect from marine type of notes. So if you think about the way that fresh algae smells once it has dried out a little bit on the shore, not while it's rotting, not that kind of algae, like seaweed. And is it algae? Seaweed. Am I thinking of seaweed? That sort of smell, the saltiness from the ocean along with the salad, really unique in that sense. This is a fragrance that is moderate all around in terms of the projection and longevity. And full bottle worthy, for me, I'm going to say no for me. However, if you like a unique fragrance and want to smell like no one else but you, and you are into vegetal marine types of smells, you may want to check out Seahorse. It was definitely interesting and unique. Let's move on then to boy smells. So I smelled a lot of these in Sephora, and I smelled the candles. The candles were a little bit overwhelming for me. Let me know in the comments if there's a candle from boy smells that you would particularly recommend to viewers here so that we can check them out. I'll start off with Woodphoria. This is not a mass appealing fragrance, in my opinion. I didn't care for this. It smelled to me like woody cigarettes. That's what I got from this, woodiness and cigarette smell. And it faded rather quickly. So I can't even really like comment on the overall projection and longevity of Woodphoria. And this was just a straight no for me. Let me know again in the comments if this is one that appeals to you and then what you smell from it so that we can get a different impression. I'll go next to Flor de Virgen. Flor de Virgen. Oh, I said it wrong. Flor de la Virgen. Somebody's gonna like revoke my Puerto Rican card after saying that. Mass appealing, I would have to say, nah, this is not a mass appealing fragrance. This opens, in my opinion, I wrote rude. This is a rude opening of a fragrance. It's very like a pungent fruit juice. Like it smacks you in the face, like fruit juice that's way too concentrated, maybe in a way that's not good. It dries down for me into something green, something rather tart and woody. So I'm going to say that it's interesting in that sense. It's not something that I've smelled often. And I can't even comment on the projection and longevity because I didn't want to sniff that part of my arm again. It was just something a little bizarre for me. So this is absolutely not for me full bottle worthy. Again, if you have this and you love this, say something different in the comments so that we can hear your thoughts. Next comes Cashmere Kush. Cashmere Kush, interesting name. I don't think this is a mass appealing fragrance either. It came across to me, had like a strong nutty accord. I got some plums out of this, like the plum fruit. This was also musky and comforting as a scent. This had moderate projection and longevity all around. And I think maybe it can be full bottle worthy depending on if you like that combination of accords, like a strong fruity plum accord, the muskiness, and the nuttiness together. So then I hope I pronounced this right. Next is, I know how to pronounce Hinoki. We're good there. Fantome, Hinoki Fantome. I do not think that this is a mass appealing fragrance, but hear me out. This smelled to me like burnt wood and barbecue smoke. You think about a neighbor is grilling ribs on their lawn and you can, the wafts of it are coming your way. That's what I got. Burnt wood and that barbecue-y kind of a smell. And it was pretty strong and I had moderate longevity. For this one, I would say in terms of is it full bottle worthy, actually for me, it was a strong maybe. There was something about the scent that I found a little bit different and fascinating. And so I would revisit this one again and I would certainly be interested in smelling it in the candle form again. I smelled it in the candle in Sephora and just wasn't sure how I felt. Moving along, the next one is called Marble Fruit. Marble Fruit. Yes, this is a mass appealing fragrance. This is fruity, this is woody, and I wrote jasmine with a question mark because I think I got some kind of perhaps a slightly indolic but very sweet white floral like a jasmine. And I think that this could potentially be full bottle worthy for someone that is interested in that kind of fruity, woody, floral smell. So, and it had, I would say, moderate projection and longevity all around. Then moving on to this house that I cannot pronounce, Nette. I'll start off with the one that really captured my attention, and it's Rose Parade. Shocker. I do like some rose fragrances, but I dislike more than I like in the rose category. Yes, this is a rather mass appealing fragrance. I'm going to read you the notes from the actual website. So this is a company a company brand out of New York. Rose, neroli, and vanilla bean. Definitely got a really pleasant, sweet rose. A deep, sweet rose is what I got from this. I enjoyed sniffing this on myself and was pleasantly surprised at how much I like this. And it was moderate all around in terms of the longevity and the projection. And yes, this, if I was going to get a bottle from this house, Rose Parade would be the one that would strike my fancy the most. I'm really intrigued by it. These bottles full size run, I think, $120 something. And they also have travel sprays of this if you're interested. And of course, the discovery set. Next is one called Opening Night, which I did not find to be a mass appealing fragrance. It's neroli and amber and vanilla. And I would say I definitely got some decent sweet neroli out of this. And it had a little bit of depth to it. I felt like it changed over time on my skin and just got a little bit flat as the day went on, whereas that Rose Parade really held its composure. It held its structure as the day went on. Opening Night sort of deteriorated on me after a couple of hours. So I would say that that is not full bottle worthy. Then I don't know how to pronounce this either. Forgive me. La Forêt. Forêt. Anyway, I assume that means the forest. This is also a no for me. Of the ones I tried from this brand, I liked this one the least. Sandalwood, cedarwood, Iso E Super, and bergamot. This is a no for me. I dislike this. However, I would say if you're into forest smelling fragrances, I mean like a pungent forest, check this out. You might like this. You might like this. So it definitely has it's strong on the cedar wood there is what I would say for that one. So I didn't hate it. I probably wouldn't wear it. Then we get to Thé Vanille. Thé Vanille. I'm intrigued by this fragrance. I'm going to say that yes, it is mass appealing. It has vanille CO2, which, as I understand it, is a more concentrated version of when it says CO2 on the end, a concentrated version of the scent, the note. Maybe I'm wrong. And green tea and salt. I would say it does have a little bit of saltiness. I would say this is maybe a little heavier on the green aspect than green tea aspect rather than the vanilla. It's a nice mix. I think that it gets a little bit softer after a while. If this lasted longer and was stronger, I wouldn't hesitate to buy a bottle. I would say that this lasts on the skin a good deal of time, probably in the 6-ish hour range. It gets softer, it gets more of a skin scent, and it also gets a little bit more cozy as the day goes on, where the vanilla pushes forward beyond that tea. The tea doesn't go away though in this. So I'm going to say this is a maybe. I'm not rushing out to get a bottle, but it's certainly one that I would consider exploring again. And I had similar impressions of the last one in the bunch called Coco Fleur. This is yes in terms of being a mass appealing fragrance for sure. Orange flower, coconut milk, and sandalwood. I have some really lovely coconut fragrances, so I'm not rushing out to purchase this. However, I would like to try it again. I have at this point tried it twice. I've sprayed decently twice. Again, just in sampling mode, not like an all over wear. So let's keep that in mind as a limiting factor here. But I do think that this is full bottle worthy if you're in the market for a nice coconut fragrance that has some very soft floral touches to give it some roundness. So it's not just a pure sort of island coconut smell. It does, I will say, in the dry down, get a little bit like the Tour Noir from Serge Lutens, where it has a little bit of like a plastic note in it, not in a way that is bothersome, but it's just something to note for people who are sensitive to those kinds of notes. But Coco Fleur, I thought it was lovely. Again, didn't last very long in terms of the opening, which is the best part of this. I think you get that for a good, 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And then it sort of settles down into this really subtle coconut with some floral touches and that little bit of plastic that I mentioned. So across these three, my favorites are, that's my drum roll. I would say, I have to go with Snowy Owl for Zoologist, with Cow being a strong second. For boy smells, Hinoki Fantome is probably my fave of the bunch. Maybe with that Cashmere Kush in second place. And then from the last house, Nette. Rose Parade is my absolute first choice, with Thé Vanille distant second, if you will. Rose Parade definitely stole the show there. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoy these kind of dips into certain houses. I will say these videos don't get the most views, these kinds of videos. But if you like them, I will continue to do them. I certainly enjoy exploring new houses and love talking about them, as you know. So thanks so much for hanging out and hearing about Zoologist, Boy Smells, and whatever the name of this other house is. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks, friends. Take care.